8-year-old Emma had been counting down the days to her birthday, but not for the reason everyone thought. The house was decorated with colorful balloons and streamers, the dining table was covered with cupcakes, cookies, and a cake topped with bright pink frosting. Neighbors, classmates, and relatives had already begun to arrive, their arms full of shiny boxes wrapped in glittering paper and tied with ribbons. The pile of presents on the side table grew higher and higher until it almost leaned. Any other child would have been bursting with excitement to tear into them. But Emma's heart carried a different kind of excitement, one that no one around her yet understood. Just a week earlier, her school had taken a small group of children to visit an orphanage in the outskirts of town. Emma remembered how quiet the bus had been when they first arrived, and how the children at the orphanage stood in the doorway, watching curiously. Their clothes were worn and mismatched, their shoes old, and some didn't have any shoes at all. Emma had expected to find children sad or unfriendly, but instead she had been met with smiles that felt both shy and hopeful. She had shared her lunch with a girl named Lila, who told her in a whisper that she had never had a birthday party. Not once. That sentence had stayed with Emma, echoing in her mind even as she went to sleep that night. As the birthday party began in her own home, Emma tried to enjoy the laughter and chatter, but her heart tugged in another direction. She glanced at the growing stack of gifts and imagined how Lila's face would light up if she received just one of them. She thought of the boys she had seen playing with a single broken toy car, passing it around carefully as if it were a treasure. Emma knew she didn't need all the gifts piled on the table. She had toys at home, books on her shelf, and clothes in her closet. But those children had so little. Her parents were busy greeting guests, smiling proudly as Emma's friends gathered around her. No one noticed the serious look in Emma's eyes as she sat down quietly, holding the hem of her pink birthday dress between her fingers. The candles on her cake flickered, and everyone began to sing, their voices rising cheerfully. Emma closed her eyes to make a wish. Most children her age would have wished for a dollhouse, a puppy, or perhaps a new bicycle. But Emma pressed her palms together, her face glowing in the candlelight, and whispered silently, "I wish to give all my presents to the children at the orphanage. I want them to feel happy too." Her parents clapped, her friends laughed, and the candles were blown out. Only Emma knew the wish that lingered in the air like a secret promise. She looked at the tower of gifts once more and smiled softly. In her heart, she had already decided what to do. The time had come for the most anticipated part of any birthday party, the opening of presents. Children gathered in a semicircle around Emma, their eyes wide with excitement, eager to see what treasures lay inside the shiny packages. Parents pulled out their phones, ready to capture the joy on her face. The gifts were piled high, ribbons curled perfectly, boxes stacked neatly. It was the moment every child waited for, but Emma's little hands stayed folded in her lap. She glanced at her mother, then at her father, as if seeking courage. Finally, she took a deep breath, stood up on a chair, and cleared her throat. The chatter in the room died down. I'm not going to keep these presents," Emma said softly, but firmly enough for everyone to hear. "I want to give them to the children at the orphanage." For a moment, silence filled the room. Her friends blinked at her, confused. One boy whispered, "Why would she give them away?" A few parents exchanged looks, touched but surprised. Emma's mother pressed a hand to her chest, tears welling in her eyes, while her father nodded slowly, pride mixing with astonishment. Emma continued, her voice trembling but brave. "I have toys at home. I have books. I have clothes. But some children, they don't have any of these. I went to visit them, and they don't even get birthday parties. I want them to feel what I feel today." Her words, innocent and pure, hung heavy in the air. Instead of ripping open the gifts as everyone expected, Emma carefully began stacking them back into bags. She didn't treat them as possessions, but as treasures meant for someone else. Some of her friends still looked puzzled, but others clapped shyly, and soon the entire room broke into gentle applause. The very next morning, Emma and her parents loaded the car with the colorful packages. The backseat was crammed with dolls, books, puzzles, and games. As they drove toward the orphanage, Emma pressed her nose against the window, excitement fluttering in her chest. This time, she wasn't nervous like before. She couldn't wait to see the children's faces. When they arrived, the director of the orphanage came out to greet them, her expression softening as she saw the overflowing bags. "Emma, what have you brought?" she asked gently. Emma smiled and said, "Birthday gifts, for everyone." The children came rushing out, their eyes growing wide as Emma handed out the first package. A little boy hugged a teddy bear as though he'd been reunited with a long-lost friend. A girl clutched a picture book to her chest, her smile brighter than the morning sun. Some children laughed and clapped, others ran to Emma and hugged her so tightly she nearly lost her balance. Emma's heart swelled as she watched them. Each gift she passed out felt like a candle lighting up another soul. In that moment, she realized she hadn't lost anything, she had gained something far greater. She had given joy, and in return, she felt a happiness deeper than any gift could bring. The days after Emma's birthday felt different. What had begun as a small, private decision was now rippling through the town. Word of her act spread quickly, first among the families who attended the party, then to neighbors, and soon even people Emma had never met were talking about the little girl who had given away all her birthday gifts. Her teacher shared the story at school, and the principal mentioned it during morning announcements. Emma was embarrassed by the attention at first, but every time she remembered the smiles of the children at the orphanage, she felt proud inside. Soon, donations began arriving at the orphanage. People who had been touched by Emma's kindness dropped off bags of clothes, boxes of food, and even new toys. Local shop owners pitched in as well. One toy store offered to sponsor monthly gifts, while a bookstore donated stacks of storybooks. The orphanage, once struggling to provide for the children, began to feel alive with laughter and color. All because one small girl had chosen to share instead of keep. The director of the orphanage called Emma and her parents back one afternoon. "You've done something extraordinary," she told Emma, her voice thick with emotion. "You didn't just bring gifts. You brought hope. You made people remember that kindness matters." She placed her hands gently on Emma's shoulders and added, "You are a little angel with a giant heart." Emma blushed, not fully understanding the weight of those words, but she could tell it meant something very important. Her parents, too, were moved by the way Emma's decision had grown into something so much larger. Her mother often told her, "You reminded all of us what birthdays are really about, celebrating life, and sharing it with others." Her father, though quieter, looked at her with a pride that spoke louder than words. When Emma's next birthday rolled around, she surprised no one with her request. "Please don't bring me presents," she told her friends and their parents in the invitations. "Bring something for the children at the orphanage instead." And just as before, the living room filled with packages, but this time, none were for Emma. The gifts were for dozens of children who were waiting with open hearts. By now, the tradition had become a movement. Other kids in Emma's school began asking if they could donate their own presents too. Parents admired Emma's example and encouraged their children to follow. What began as one small girl's wish had sparked a chain of generosity that touched the entire community. On the night of her 9th birthday, after the cake was eaten and the laughter had quieted down, Emma sat by her window, looking up at the stars. She thought of Lila, the girl from the orphanage, and how she had hugged her tightly last year with tears of joy. Emma smiled softly to herself. She realized the greatest gift she could ever receive wasn't something wrapped in paper or tied with ribbons. It was knowing that she had made others feel loved, remembered, and celebrated. For Emma, kindness had become the best birthday tradition of all.